Okay, I'll just quickly reintroduce myself. I'm Hailey Helquist. I'm the director over our connected devices here at Nu Skin. And I've been with Nu Skin for just 5 years now. And in that time, I've kind of gone from our customer experience team to marketing to now on our research and development team. And so my team is responsible for helping to develop and launch our connected devices. And so I've helped with LumiSpa.io, WellSpa.io, and now Prysm.io. And it's been such an exciting opportunity to be able to work on our devices and take the project from start to finish, from concepting it to studying it to prototyping it to actually being able to manufacture the device. And so I'm really happy to be able to be here today and talk about our latest innovation, Prysm.io. I apologize if I have any repeats from the previous content, but I think we'll be able to dive mostly into the tech side. But before we do that, I did want to just kind of preface again the opportunity here that we have with Prysm.io and why this is such a pivotal time to launch a product like this. When looking at our global wellness trends, we're seeing that the marketplace is expected to reach up to 9 trillion by 2028. And I'm sure you've seen this on social media, right? Talking with your friends, family, everyone is so concerned about their health, what they're putting in their bodies, the supplements that they are taking, making sure that they're exercising, getting in enough steps every day, right? This is top of mind for everyone. And so this is a great opportunity for Prysm to come in as a wellness device, helping to gain a little bit better insights into our bodies and how we can improve our health. We also are looking at a lot of the consumer trends in terms of what our customers are asking for, right? People want to know if their supplements are working. They want to know what their personalized solutions are, right? One supplement does not necessarily fit everyone, right? We need to make sure that we're taking things that our body's deficient in, things that we actually need in order to live healthier lives. And then we're also seeing that customers do want connected solutions. And everything is going digital these days, right? The ability to have a physical device paired with software, right? Being able to gain deeper insights, access to more features, right? The pairing of those two allows for a broader experience and more benefits as well. And so these three mega trends are things that we have been looking at as we have been developing Prysm.io. So again, this is the right time with the right product. What a great time to be able to launch Prysm.io. Now, before we talk about what Prysm.io does, let's lay the ground a little bit on what we're actually measuring and the issue that we're trying to solve here. So oxidative stress, right? This is what we call the invisible threat. These are things that our body faces every single day that we may not even realize that we're fighting against, right? These are things like stress, smoking, pollution, all those different types of free radicals that are attacking our bodies, attacking our defense system, our immune system, every single day. We don't even know it, we don't see it, we don't feel it. But it impacts all of us. And so here, right, these are some of those factors that impact that oxidative stress. Pollution, high fat diets, even just sleeping poorly, right, being stressed, those all wear and tear on our bodies. And eventually you'll start to feel it, right? You might start to lose energy, maybe see it in terms of the signs of your skin and how it's looking. But for the most part, we don't see this. But one way that we can combat these oxidative stressors, these free radicals, is through antioxidants. And antioxidants are the body's natural way of defending our or building up our defense systems. And so this image, I think, is really powerful. It shows how our body cells, imagine a cell within your body, and all those different free radicals we talked about, those stressors attacking it, right? So pollution, poor diet, lack of sleep, all those wear and tear on the body. But when you have antioxidants, they build up that barrier around those cells, helping to protect and fight against those oxidative stressors. Our body does produce some of these naturally, but only in limited quantities. And so that's why antioxidants are so important to have more of an external or an additional source to get those nutrients in, is because our body only makes so much of it, right? And so that's why we say eat your fruits and vegetables, because that's where we find the highest concentration of antioxidants are in. Those super colorful fruits and vegetables are packed with antioxidants. And so again, it's not, our bodies can't just do it alone. We need to have a good diet, exercise well. We'll talk about more of those factors as we get into the presentation. But here's a kind of a better visual, right? We all know when we cut into an apple, and maybe you've seen this visual before, right? As soon as you cut into it, it looks really fresh, no browning, right? But as soon as you let it sit there for even like an hour, it starts to brown, right? And that's a prime example of how those oxidative stressors impact. We aren't necessarily turning brown, right? But it's showcasing that how once you expose something to natural elements, and those different stressors, how it starts to wear and tear on the body. And so this is really kind of the science where everything stems from, our biophotonic scanner and now Prysm IO, helping to focus on measuring your body's defense system. And so again, why should we care about carotenoids? Carotenoids are a subcategory of antioxidants. So if you have an umbrella of antioxidants, um, everything that falls underneath there, carotenoids are a subcategory of an antioxidants, right? And this is something we've picked carotenoids because it's something that's actually reflective within the body. We can actually measure light off of carotenoids, and we'll talk about that again a little bit later in the technology section. But we pick carotenoids because we can measure them in the skin. And so again, we find carotenoids in those colorful fruits and vegetables. And that's why we're measuring them, is it's one of those markers to help determine your antioxidant status and therefore your body's ability to fight against those stressors. And so, with that being said, what if you could actually measure your body's defense system in just 15 seconds? This is where Prysm IO comes in as such a great opportunity and a great tool from the wellness side, and helping to give a little bit of a glimpse into your health, things that you can't see, right? We always talk about here at Nu Skin how it's the difference demonstrated. We're always talking about how we can show that our products are working. And Prysm IO does this for our supplements. So again, what a unique and such a unique opportunity for Nu Skin among the competitive marketplace to be able to do that. And so with that, we're going to go ahead and dive into actually what makes Prysm IO work, the science and technology behind the device. And so getting into the innovation side, if we go and look and think back on Nu Skin years and years ago, this chart right here just kind of shows where Nu Skin's come from. So, right, we first launched personal care, right, back in 1984. We then built off and started doing nutritional products. Getting into then, we launched our first biophotonic scanner, right, back in 2002. So this is where we really started to get into the antioxidant story, building off of those nutritional supplements that we had launched in the previous years. We then started to get into our age lock technology, right? So even building that into our nutritional products as well. That's where you get like your age lock youth, bringing that technology in to help with the antioxidant story. And then we started to launch our connected beauty devices, right? So gaining those broader insights, collecting that data, learning from that data, building off of those stories, and then now leading up to Prysm IO, which is our intelligent beauty and wellness system. And as part of that too, I think this is a fun visual to look at as well, is looking at where we've come from for the biophotonic scanner. And I apologize, I can't see faces in the room, but I'm sure lots of you have been with the company for a very, very long time. And I'm sure you remember those days of having our first biophotonic scanner, right? And it was very big. You had to put it in a big case. In fact, the first one took up an entire room at a university, right? And over the years, we've slowly started to shrink that device down, trying to make it more portable, a little easier to carry around and to help scan people. But our access has been limited, right? We haven't been able to make a ton of them, right? We've only ever had a couple thousand out there in the marketplace. And there's a few reasons for this. One is the biophotonic scanner has some really complex hardware in there that's expensive to make. And that's why the size is as big as it is too, is because the optics block inside of that device, the technology isn't there yet to get it down to be a small size. So we're kind of limited by that optics block in there. But because it was so expensive, and then we had to have some pretty intense calibration and maintenance, right? We had to send it back to corporate in order to maintain it, calibrate it, and get it refreshed, ready to go back out. And so again, it just wasn't necessarily built for mass distribution, right? Fantastic tool. Science was there, but the technology, trying to get it to a spot where it could be more shareable, more social friendly was really tough, right? But as we went down and did, S1 to S3, to what we currently have, we then were tasked as a team to say, hey, how could we get the biophotonic scanner to be more affordable, more accessible, and smaller, right? So that's where our engineering team came in, partnering with some professors from local universities, as well as Dr. Joe Chang and Steve Hatchett, right? Putting our heads together to say, how could we make this smaller? How can we spread this story and have this be a global opportunity and get this into more hands and change more lives? And that's where we've landed with Prysm.io. So we'll talk a little bit about some of those technology differences and what we had to do to make it to be that size. But one other thing I think that's super important to mention that we can't forget is just recently, I believe last year when we launched WellSpa.io, we unveiled that we are now the world's #1 company for beauty and wellness device systems. And so again, having that accolade, that credibility for Nu Skin as being a leader in beauty and wellness is such a great, I think, award to help with selling this story for Prysm.io. We have that backing from a third-party company, right? We've had Lumis.io, WellSpa.io, which have been great beauty devices, but now tying in more of that wellness story, again, is just a huge kudos to Nu Skin and something that will really set us apart from the competition. And again, being able to tie those products in together, right? We have supplements that help with the health side, but then we also have certified products like Beauty Focus Collagen Plus that are focused more on beauty, but still bringing in that wellness aspect, still improving your score. And so again, we just have a great holistic ecosystem to be able to tie all these products together and that story together. For those who are more focused on skin and beauty, there's still a story there for them. For those who are more focused on supplements and more wellness, right? There's a story for them as well. And so Prysm.io is a great kind of a central point to bring in people from all different portfolios and benefits that they're looking for, because we have products that can feed both sides. On top of that, too, some other things that really set Prysm.io apart are our science and credibility. So we launched the first scanner back in early 2000s, right? That was over 20 years ago, right? So we have 20 years of leadership in this antioxidant story in science. We have been researching it. We have published hundreds of articles and clinicals on just antioxidants, either with the biophotonic scanner or just carotenoids. And so Nu Skin has this wealth of knowledge and already that credibility as well, right? You'll notice other people are starting to talk more about antioxidants, right? But they don't nearly have the backing and the science that we have from over 2 decades of studying this topic. And then again, we've talked about we're the #1 beauty and wellness device systems. We also just had Dr. Shelley Hester present an article, a study that we did where we compared the biophotonic scanner to the Prysm.io technology and its ability to measure carotenoids. And this was presented at the American Society of Nutrition as well. So we already have articles going out. We haven't even launched the device, but we already have clinicals and studies that are being recognized and presented on this science and technology, because again, it is just so notable and something that is so forefront of everyone's minds these days. And then we do still have more studies to come. I can't tell you much right now, but just know we have a lot of fun partnerships with different universities and clinical research labs that are super, super anxious to get their hands on this Prysm.io device. And we have a few that are actually ongoing right now that hopefully, later this year, we'll be able to share some results with you. But again, just high level, broad as well, even beyond Nu Skin, people are realizing what a unique opportunity and unique high science that this Prysm.io device will offer. Now, if we get into the engineering side, which again kind of falls more to my team, this has been a fun project for us to work on. These are some of the key items that we think really set us apart from our technology versus others out there in the industry that may be attempting to measure something similar. And so we have exclusive technology, which we'll talk about on the next slide, but we have this, we actually have a patent that is currently pending on this technology. It's been filed. We use a unique AI algorithm, but it's actually leveraging what we know about antioxidants and carotenoids from what we've learned through the biophotonic scanner. So again, those 20 years of research scanning people on the biophotonic scanner that has not gone to waste. That is wealth, that is knowledge there that we have been tapping into and looking into as we've been developing this new device. It's only 15 seconds long. So again, those of you who have been with Nu Skin for a while, remember the days when the scan was a minute long, right? And then we shrunk it down to 30 seconds and now even 15 seconds. it may not seem like much, but I've scanned on the S3 many times, and 30 seconds can feel like a long time when you're just sitting there waiting for a score. And so 15 seconds is a lot faster. Wanting to get those results, making it just a super easy, non-committal way to talk and share with people, right? It's not intimidating to say, hey, if you just put your finger on this device and scan for 15 seconds, you can actually understand your body's overall nutritional status, right? uh, not a huge commitment on their end, right? That's, oh yeah, I'd go and scan if it's just 15 seconds. That's great. Um, Again, we've made it more portable. It fits inside of your pocket, more accessible, and super easy to share. One thing we wanted to focus on when building this device was we wanted to make sure that it looked really cool on social media, really, really high tech, something that is intriguing where you want to go, oh, what is that? What does it measure? What does it do? I want to learn more about that. And bringing in some of those, the rainbow UI, which I think is pretty iconic now for Prysm, something that is coined. People know it when they see it. Oh, that's Prysm IO. And so again, really making sure we're driving eyes with this device, as well as providing that high science with the credibility of our 20 plus years in the industry. And so we're going to now dive into what actually makes the Prysm IO device work and run. But before we do that, just want to again reiterate, the ask was to make the biophotonic scanner something smaller and more accessible. And again, we looked at making the Raman technology smaller. And unfortunately, there's limitations there, again, the hardware side. And that's when we brought in the spectral ray technology. So that's what we have here. And using spectral ray technology, I mentioned how in the biophotonic scanner, we have really complex hardware. It's big, really expensive. But the software to run the biophotonic scanner isn't necessarily the most complex thing, right? It's really the hardware that does it. With Prysm IO, we focused more on a more complex software, right? So if we think about our watches, the intelligent rings, other types of wearable devices, they're all getting smaller, right? You're not wearing these big chunky instruments on you, right? Everything is really small and complex. And the way that they're able to do that is through very simple hardware, but complex software. And so that's the approach that we've brought in with Prysm IO and using spectral ray technology. And so we were able to bring that size down smaller and make it more affordable and accessible. Now, what spectral ray consists of are three different parts in the technology. The first part are what we call hyperspectral absorption measurements. This is the hardware on the device. This is what's actually physically running on the device. And in this slide here, we can take a look at it. You can see this isn't necessarily to scale, but I just wanted to kind of paint a picture of what's actually going on inside of this device. So I'm going to tell you why you see the lights flashing and what they're doing in here. And so inside of the device, we have two photodiodes, and photodiodes are used to measure intensity of light. And we have two of those, one on the top of the device and one on the bottom of the device. And then we have 5 LEDs inside of there. And that's what you see when you turn on the device and you see those flashing lights inside of the lens. Don't put your eye too close to it, right? But you see that flashing light in there. A few of those LEDs are actually used to measure carotenoids. So again, earlier we mentioned carotenoids are reflective, and they absorb light at a certain intensity. There's certain wavelengths that carotenoids absorb at, and they don't reflect back. And so this is common knowledge with light technology, and so this is backed by lots of research out there in the industry. And so a few of those wavelengths we selected that would be absorbed by those carotenoids. A few of the other wavelengths in there are used to measure things that could interfere with your score, like maybe blood or your skin tone. And so we wanted to make sure that we are capturing those so that we don't include those in the measurement and interfere with that carotenoid score. And so all 5 of those LEDs are in there. And what we do is we fire those LEDs at extremely fast rates. And so you just see them blinking super fast. And we're actually we're grabbing hundreds of thousands of measurements within a 15-second scan. And so what we do is we flash those LEDs super fast, and the light shines up into the skin, and we measure it on the way up what the intensity is. It then hits your finger, and again, some of that is absorbed, and the rest of it is reflected back. And then we measure what comes back down on the second photodiode. And the measurement that we get is super, super small. Like we're talking 0.0065, right? Really small numbers. And so that is what hyperspectral absorption is. That is what you see physically happening in the device when you turn it on and those lights are flashing. That is the hardware side of the device. That is what is physically occurring there. But if we go back to this chart right here, that only covers the hardware portion on this left side. Now let's move on to parts 2 and 3 of the technology. So now that we have that hyperspectral absorption measurement, we have actually created an AI algorithm, a machine learned algorithm, that then takes what we know about Raman technology and converts it into a score. And so in order to create this AI algorithm, we went and looked at our database, what we know about Raman, and we said, hey, for those who would get a hyperspectral absorption measurement of blank, what would their score be on the biophotonic scanner? And so we did that with a group of people, and then we actually created a unique math equation from that. That's where the AI algorithm comes in. It's our conversion algorithm to convert that hyperspectral absorption measurement into a score that's as accurate, if not more accurate, than what we get from Raman technology. And so again, this technology is super proprietary to Nu Skin because other companies, other competitors do not have this rich history and database of Raman technology and scores from over 20 million or 20 million scans on Raman technology. And so bringing that portion in, that's really our secret sauce to this spectral ray technology, is being able to correlate our hyperspectral absorption measurements to what Raman would scan and would see based on that. And so those 3 parts, the LEDs, so if we had to simplify it, because this could feel overwhelming and maybe hard to explain to people, you don't need to get that into the weeds on it. I just like to say in high level, spectral ray technology, what Prysm.io does are 3 different parts. We use LED lights to help measure the carotenoids in the skin. We use what we know from Raman technology and how we've scanned over the last 20 years, that database, and a unique AI model to pull all of those information together and create a score. So just 3 simple parts to the spectral ray technology. And again, this has a patent that is pending currently right now, and very unique, and again, couldn't have done it without what we know about Raman technology. One other thing I'd like to bring up too is, again, we're moving into connected devices. We have been for the last few years. One great thing about having Prysm.io be a connected device is that we mentioned that the hardware is a little maybe more simple in Prysm.io, but the software is more complex. What this means, though, is in the future, 6 months down the road, a year down the road, right, maybe we come up with better ways of measuring, or we find, a different pattern to flash the LEDs, or a better AI model to use. We can easily adjust that and update it through the app and the firmware updates, right? And so you wouldn't necessarily need to buy a new Prysm.io. We would just push that as an update like what you would get on your phone, and can adjust that and help refine that. And so again, really great opportunity for Prysm. I like to say this, what we're going to launch with is really just the starting point for Prysm. And as we start to scan more people and gather more data about the device, we'll be able to learn more and improve more as well. So really exciting. This shift from Raman technology to spectral ray technology, I think, is a huge step for Nu Skin and for the advancement of this device. Hopefully you've all had a chance to maybe try the Prysm.io device. I don't know if there's one there in the office, but for those who haven't been able to try one, this is just a quick animation of how it works. It's really simple. You just press the power button, and then we have this flashing red light. And what that does is it waits for a finger to go over the lens, and that's what cues the device to start the scan. And so from there, the lights will circle for 15 seconds. You might feel a haptic in there as well, right? Helping you to know that the scan is in progress. And then at the end of 15 seconds, whatever your score is, that corresponding color light will blink. And we'll walk through this in a few slides, but red, right, indicates kind of a low concentration of carotenoids, and purple is a high concentration of carotenoids in the skin. But super easy to use, one button. We really just wanted to make this super seamless and very easy to share and use. On this slide, I think this is really, oh, sorry, it jumped ahead. Oh, you know what? It's auto-advancing. Let's see if I can go back. Sorry about that. Okay, so here we're talking about, oh, I am so sorry. Give me 1 second. There's a transition issue on this slide. Let me pull it off really quickly. All right, let's try this again. while I am pulling that up, okay, here we go. Sorry about that. Okay. That in presentation mode. Okay, perfect. So on the slide here, when we were continue share. When we were piloting this device and prototyping it, we wanted to make sure that the spectral array technology was valid, right? We wanted to make sure that the shift into a new technology wasn't measuring something other than carotenoids. And so in this graph, what we did is we took the biophotonic scanner, and we had about 50 participants go and take LifePak, and they scanned on the biophotonic scanner and the Prysm IO device, each at week 4, 8, and 12. And here you can see that we saw an increase on both devices at each time point. Now, this is big because this is what kind of kicked off the project and said, yep, we are measuring carotenoids, this spectral array technology works. But the other thing too that's interesting to note, and I know we get a lot of questions about it, is you'll see that at each time point between weeks 4, week 8, and week 12, the Prysm IO device and the biophotonic scanner aren't necessarily exactly the same, right? Some weeks the Prysm IO is a little bit further up, right? And the biophotonic scanner might have a little bit more of an increase on other weeks. And this is important because people ask, right, will my biophotonic scanner score be the exact same as my Prysm IO score, right? Vice versa, right? Will they align exactly? And the answer is no, right? We're using a different technology. We're calibrating it a different way. We're moving away from measuring on the palm to now measuring the finger. But they will be close, right? We're working on refining what that exact variation is between the two devices, but it's super, super tight. They have a very, very high correlation rate. But this is important though, as you're educating, your teams, your customers, that the comparison there of them being exactly the same most likely will not be the case, right? But we do know that they both measure carotenoids in the skin, and they both show improvements over time after taking supplements. And that's really the key story here, especially as we move forward with Prysm IO and measure more people with Prysm IO. But again, this is a really key important part, I think, to help just understand that even though we're using two different technologies, that they're both measuring carotenoids in a similar manner and seeing similar improvements at those time points as well. We will have more clinical studies coming out hopefully in the next few months, but this is just something preliminary that I wanted to be able to share, as I think it helps kind of educate on the difference between the two of those devices. Now, let's see if my slides will move forward. Okay, perfect. So let's talk a little bit about what your score actually means. So if we look, this is a chart that's built kind of off of the biophotonic scanner, right? We are still measuring carotenoids, right? So the story underneath it is still, for the most part, very similar in terms of, right, those that score kind of more in the red and orange area typically have, lower intakes of fruits and vegetables, right? Maybe higher levels of stress, and they have a low carotenoid absorption in the skin, whereas people who score more in the purple typically eat more fruits and vegetables, right, and have a higher carotenoid absorption in the skin. But one thing that's really fun to look at is this chart right here. And what I'm showing on the screen is like I mentioned, we have over 20 million scans in our biophotonic database, right? So what we see when people scan. And when we plot that, this is just global, all of those scans. When we actually graph it, this is what the curve turns out to be. And so you can see more than 50% of those scores are below, more in the low to moderate range, right? Whereas less than 50% are in the more green, blue, purple, which we would kind of associate with those that have higher concentration of carotenoids in the skin. So this is really interesting to look at, but we then started to dissect the data and say, okay, well, what happens, let's see, when you just look at people who never take LifePak, who don't eat fruits and vegetables, and maybe have a higher BMI. This is what your bell curve looks like. So almost, everyone is towards the left side of the graph. But now let's change one of those factors. Let's say they don't smoke anymore. Let's just look at people who don't smoke, but maybe still don't eat fruits and vegetables, right? Here you go. And you can see, on this next slide, even just taking away smoking, you see how this graph adjusts and shifts a little bit. And then now let's say that they eat more or have a normal BMI. moving that over. Again, just these small increments, these small lifestyle changes start to shift the average scores. Okay, now let's go and look at people who eat fruits and vegetables. That curve starts to shift even more. And then lastly, let's look at people that do eat fruits and vegetables, have normal BMI, don't smoke, but they take Life Pack one time a day. Even just taking Life Pack one time a day shifts that curve more towards the middle, right? We now have more people in the yellow, green, and blue. And then lastly, those that then take Life Pack 2 times a day. And so what we're really trying to showcase here, right? One is what we know about antioxidants, right? All of this knowledge that we've seen and that is demonstrated here on this graph has gone into the innovating and developing the Prysm IO device. And that's where we can start. We're learning now how these different lifestyles and diets impact the score. One thing that's important too that I think we're trying to focus more on with Prysm IO is it's not just about supplements, right? You can see that each little action, each change in lifestyle, diet shifts the score. It wasn't like you take Life Pack and you're suddenly all the way in the purple area, right? You need to make sure you're eating right. You need to make sure you're exercising. You need to make sure that you're taking care of your body, getting enough sleep, and then also adding in additional supplements, right? Because we talked about how your body does not necessarily produce enough antioxidants for what you need to be able to combat those oxidative stressors. And so one big thing that we're focusing on is that education, helping our customers, helping the globe learn more about how to improve your score in those 4 quadrants when it comes to diet, to exercise, to supplementation, and to stress and things like that, right? Taking care of your body in those different sections will help to improve your score. And so again, right here, right? Those are the four sections that we want to focus on. And so this has been a fun project for our team to be able to dig into this data and learn more. And what I'm really excited about is, again, with the biophotonic scanner, we only had a couple thousand of those out there in the world, right? With Prysm IO, we're hoping to have 1 million, right? And think of all that data that will be coming through as we continue to build out this database, continue to learn more about antioxidants, continue to provide solutions for our customers and for the world on how to have an improved score and improve your antioxidant status. The other key thing, which I'm sure you all know about, right, but we cannot forget, the one big thing about Prysm IO, right, and just Nu Skin in general, is we don't just go ahead and say, oh, here's your score, sorry, you're low, good luck, next time, hopefully you improve. We actually have solutions, right? So we can go and say, okay, you were scored in this range. Here are a portfolio of products that we offer that are proven to increase your score, proven to help you start to step up in that journey in improving your score. We have clinicals that back these products, and I think that's really what sets Nu Skin apart, is we're not just a device that gives you a status, but we give you a status and a solution. And so again, really unique and a great way to position Nu Skin as having a solution as well as kind of a status update on your antioxidants. I know we're running a little short on time, but I do want to just super high level talk about the app. We don't have, we're still in the development process right now. We'll have more details and walk you through the full app, hopefully in the next month or two. But for now, just want to give you a really high level view of the app. So again, this will be a connected device. There will be an app associated with it. And like we've talked about, the 3 main things we want to focus on are the ability to just easily scan people, right? It's a quick conversation starter, non-committal, easy to get into. Oh, did someone say something? Okay, we're good. And so being able to just quickly scan and get a score. On the device, you'll see that it was just a color score that was flashing, but when you connect up to the app, you'll actually get a numerical score as well. And so a reason to get into the app and to scan so you can have that number. And then, like we talked about, we really want to help educate on what does the score mean? How do I improve it? What are all the factors that impact the score? And ways that you can improve it, right? So we want to be able to recommend products, help give lifestyle tips, educate on how you can improve your antioxidant status. And so really trying to change lives and help educate and not just say, hey, take this product and your score will be better, right? We want to make sure that it's more of a holistic approach and educating our customers on the importance of having a healthy antioxidant status. And then again, just being able to share, we talked about, we want this to be social friendly. We want this to drive eyeballs. We want people to be excited and ask questions and want to scan on this device. Because again, we want to scan the globe, and we want to help change as many lives as we can with our Prysm IO device and the product portfolio that we have with those solutions to help improve that score. And so really excited about the app. We'll have a lot of fun features in there. So stay tuned for more information as we go through and actually demo that app. But I'm really excited for this whole solution that we're developing, and in tandem with you guys as well, as we hear your feedback and your thoughts. It's all very helpful as part of our development process. And so with that concludes and brings us to the end of at least my portion of the Prysm IO technical training. I hope it was helpful and not too overwhelming. But again, using it is really, really simple. The technology is a combo of lights, a proprietary AI algorithm, and bringing in what we know about Raman technology. And then we'll have a connected device that helps provide solutions and helps you learn about what your score means. So with that, I don't know if, I guess I'll turn it back over to you if